Have you ever just been sitting there and had an idea pop into your head and thought, hey, this could actually be something big? Well, what does it really take to go from that little spark to something that genuinely changes the world? Today, we're diving into the innovation playbook, breaking down that exact journey. It really all boils down to this question, doesn't it? I mean, think about it. You've probably had a handful of really good ideas just this week. But what's the magic ingredient that separates a random thought from, say, a game changer like the iPhone or Amazon? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. Okay, so first things first, we've got to make sure we're all speaking the same language. You hear these words all the time: creativity, invention, innovation, and they get thrown around like they're the same thing. They're not. They're actually three totally distinct, super important stages, and getting this right is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So it all starts with creativity. This is the very, very beginning. It's happening entirely inside your head. It's that aha moment when you connect two things nobody else has, or you see the world a little differently. It's the pure act of imagining something that doesn't exist yet. Simple as that. Now, an invention, that's when you take that creative spark out of your head and you make it real. You make it tangible. Think about the very first wheel, right? Or the original steam engine. Our source material gives this fantastic example. The creative idea was, how do I clean my teeth? The invention was using a simple neem stick as a tool to do it. It's the very first physical version of an idea. And here it is. This is the final and, honestly, the most crucial piece of the puzzle. Innovation. This is what takes that invention and makes it a runaway success. So it's not just about having the neem stick. It's about developing it into a modern toothbrush, then an electric one that's so useful and convenient that people are actually willing to pay for it. An idea only becomes a true innovation when it adds real value and solves a real problem in a way that's affordable and can be scaled up. All right, so we've got our definitions down, but how do you actually shepherd an invention along that path to becoming a true innovation? Well, it's not some kind of magic. Turns out there's a pretty well-defined process, a roadmap, that can guide an idea from just a concept all the way to reality. And this roadmap has 5 key stages. It starts with idea generation. That's the spark we talked about. But then comes advocacy and screening. This is huge. It's about finding champions for the best ideas, and just as importantly, filtering out the ones that just aren't going to fly. After that, you've got experimentation, where you test it and see if it actually works in the real world. If it does, you move to commercialization, turning it into a product people want to buy. And finally, diffusion and implementation, which is when it truly spreads and becomes a part of our daily lives. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Not all innovation looks the same. Once a company understands the process, it has to make a massive strategic choice about how it wants to innovate. Is it going to play it safe with small, steady improvements? Or is it going to swing for the fences and try to change the world overnight? Basically, there are 4 main paths they can take. So the first and by far the most common path is incremental innovation. This is the least risky way to go. Think about your car or your smartphone. Every year, a new model comes out that's just a little bit faster, a little more efficient, maybe the camera is slightly better. It's not a revolution, right? It's evolution. It's that series of small, steady improvements that keeps a product competitive. Then you have disruptive innovation. This is the real game changer. What's wild is that it often starts out looking like a step backward. Maybe it's clunkier or more expensive than what's already out there, but it offers a totally new kind of value that the old stuff just can't compete with. The iPhone's touchscreen is the perfect example. Over time, it gets better and better until suddenly the old way of doing things just seems ancient. This next one, architectural innovation, is just brilliant strategy. It's all about taking what you are already an expert in and applying it to a brand new field. I mean, look at Amazon. They absolutely mastered logistics and tech for selling books and everything else online. And then they took that exact same expertise and used it to deliver groceries. It's like they had a proven blueprint for a building, and they used it to build a completely different kind of house in a new neighborhood. And finally, we have the big one, radical innovation. This is the rarest, most powerful, most transformative type. It doesn't just improve an existing market, it creates a new one out of thin air. The airplane didn't just make travel a bit faster. It created the entire global airline industry, air freight, the works, from absolutely nothing. This is the definition of high risk, high reward. This is the stuff of legends. Okay, so we've seen how individual companies can innovate. But what happens when an entire country decides it wants to become an innovation powerhouse? Well, the same principles we've been talking about still apply, just on a massive, massive scale. So let's zoom out and look at how a nation can build an entire ecosystem to make innovation flourish. And to really understand how this works on a national level, we're going to use India as our case study. The government there has put several major, coordinated policies in place that are specifically designed to create fertile ground for new ideas to take root and grow. One of the key parts of this national strategy involves two ideas that sound similar but are actually quite different. Make in India is basically an open invitation to foreign companies saying, hey, come set up your factories here. But on the flip side, you have Made in India, which is all about empowering homegrown companies to use local talent and resources to build their own products. It's a really smart two-pronged attack: attract investment from the outside while building strength from the inside. You see, the critical thing to understand here is that a national strategy can't just be one single policy. It has to be a whole ecosystem. India's approach rests on these huge pillars, like Digital India, which builds the digital highways needed for modern commerce. Then there's Skill India, which makes sure the workforce has the right training. And of course, Startup India, which gives new businesses the support they need to survive and thrive. And if we zoom in on that Startup India initiative, you'll see it's built on three core pillars of its own. First, simplification, making it super easy to start and even exit a business. Second, providing funding and incentives, like tax breaks. And third, pushing for partnerships between big industry and universities to supercharge research and development. It's a complete 360-degree support system. Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, from a single creative thought sparking in someone's mind, all the way to a massive, complex national strategy. So let's tie this all together and talk about why this framework is so powerful for making sense of the world. So here's your takeaway toolkit. First, always remember the difference. Creativity is the thought, invention is the first version, but innovation is what adds real value. Second, know that great ideas don't just happen. They follow a 5-step path to the market. Third, you can now see that companies are making deliberate choices to be incremental, disruptive, architectural, or radical. And finally, you can see how all of these pieces fit into much larger national ecosystems designed to fuel growth. You know, when you really get down to it, every single innovation we've talked about, from a simple toothbrush to a world-changing airplane, started as a solution to a problem. So I'll leave you with this thought. Now that you have the playbook for turning ideas into impact, what problem will you solve next?